times down. At these times, you can come over to this Forex Factory website. There'll be a little green button. You can refresh it. And as it's time for the announcement, you'll be able to see live what the results are. And when that happens, you can, what you can do is you can actually open up the DXY chart and the Bitcoin chart side by side for each other on TradingView. You can see how they react together. So I'm going to have to get out of a few tabs as we're going through all of this because I just got a thing saying that I'm using up all my RAM currently. It might be time for a computer upgrade. So let's get stuck into what we have planned for today. So first off, I just want to cover a couple of things about the US dollar, as it is quite important what's happening over in the US at the moment. And we can see that an article here from Financial Times is telling us that investors are dumping the dollars in bets that the US rates have peaked. So they're saying that they are presuming that the US interest rates have peaked. Investors are selling their dollars at the fastest rate in a year as they raise their bets that the US Federal Reserve has finished its aggressive campaign of interest rate hikes and that will deliver multiple cuts next year. Now, we've been following this over the last couple of weeks. We know that inflation is currently out of control. However, we want to play with what we're being told at the time. And essentially, they're saying that the US investors are selling their dollars. Now, while it may be because they think interest rates coming to or starting to decline, that's one thing. But then there's also what's happening overseas, which we're going to get to in a sec, where China and a lot of other countries are selling their US Treasury holdings. Now, what we have here is that asset managers are on track to sell 1.6% of their open dollar positions this month, the largest monthly outflow since November, according to State Street, which is a custodian of $40 trillion of assets. Managers have made significant sales every day since weaker than expected US jobs data. Now, what we're seeing here as well, regarding to that US jobs data, is we're going to get another announcement about that in a couple of days' time. We just covered that. So we can see how the US jobs data is causing a sell-off of the US dollar. A weaker US dollar can equate to a higher Bitcoin price. Flows in the past 2 weeks to a rapid rethink with dollar demand, said Michael Metcalf, head of MicroStrategy at State Street, adding to the recent sales market marked an unrivaling of unusually high US dollar overweight position. Investors think if rate cuts are actually going to be delivered, then I don't need to hold as many dollars. You got to think that when the interest rates are higher, people are more inclined to hold dollars as they're getting a percentage return on those dollars. If interest rates are coming down, we could start to see a sell-off on dollars. And that's why when we see interest rates go up, we see higher dollar strength, and vice versa when we start to see rates come down. Now, in relation to this, one important thing that we want to have a look at here is the Treasury government. This is actually from the US government themselves, their website, treasury.gov, and it's showing the amount of treasuries each country is currently holding in the US government. And for the last few months, we've been tracking China. We've been saying how China's starting to dump their treasuries. You can see that at the start of the 9th of 2022, they were holding $901 billion of treasuries. And as of recent data, we can see they've actually sold off more than they had previously, and we're now sitting at 778. So you can see there's a big dump coming from China in the treasuries as well as Japan. Now, one important thing is, going back to this article, is that as interest rates are rising in the US, Japan's economy is currently, it's almost in like a recession. It's being hit really hard. So what we may start to see is money moving into the Japanese yen and yen treasury or bonds or whatever it may be, because they want to see an increase on the yen currency rather than the US dollar. Michael Dungy in the chat, the Australian dollar is at a 4-month high at the moment. There you go. So you can see that as the dollar comes down, that our dollar is also going to become worth more US dollars. Now, you got to think of Bitcoin when it has its intrinsic value. If it's tied directly to the US dollar, if the US dollar is coming down, well then, you could see a very similar pattern occur on Bitcoin. Let's get into some crypto news. First off, CZ stepped down as the CEO of Binance. He got charged with a whole bunch of different things, and he has to go back to court shortly. I'm not going to do a big explanation on this. I pretty much just want to tell you guys why it's important for the crypto industry. So heading towards the ETF approval, one thing that's needed is for more legit practices being followed in the crypto industry. Now, it's been shown that CZ, the owner of Binance, had allowed Binance to fund terrorist organizations they're claiming and a whole bunch of other illicit legal activities through, not so much through their exchange, but allowing funds to potentially do those kind of things. I don't know the best way to put it. However, Binance has now been charged. Now, as we come closer to an ETF being released, we need the Bitcoin product to be used for legitimate reasons. If we start seeing that Bitcoin is being used for illegal things, it's going to more or less put a hold on that ETF being approved. Why would the government allow an ETF product for something that's funding illegal activity? You think of it like that for a second. So, although these dramas happened, and we thought that we're going to see a big sell-off on Bitcoin because of this happened, the big sell-off didn't happen. And the reason the big sell-off didn't happen is because technically this is seen as bullish news for the market, because it's cleansing out the bad things that have been happening in the market, paving the way for the fresh for the ETF to be created, because they want to see legitimized things happening with Bitcoin rather than dodgy things going on in the background, whether it be people sending money to buy, things that they probably shouldn't have on the market, right? And that's what is one of the things that's holding back the ETF. And by this coming up and this happening, it's basically showing you with CZ that the efforts are to cleanse out all the bullshit, essentially, and pave the way for legitimacy within the cryptocurrency ecosystem. One funny post that I saw on Twitter actually was here in October 2020, Arthur Hayes, the former CEO of BitMEX, was also forced to resign from his CEO position. BitMEX was one of the biggest exchanges at that time due to criminal charges. And you can see here that Bitcoin did a 6x straight after that. Now, what we're seeing here is now Binance. They're going down for criminal charges. Will we see a 6x from here? Who knows? But, it's a pretty funny chart, but it's just something that I thought I'd show you guys. So JP Morgan essentially saying that Binance settlement is positive as it eliminates potential systematic risk from hypothetical collapse. A lot of people in the crypto industry are saying, well, what happens if Binance goes down? There's so much money in it. JP Morgan sees Binance settlement with US agencies positive for the crypto exchange and the industry. Crypto exchange reaching a settlement with US prosecutors on Tuesday is a good sign, a good thing for business and the crypto sector, according to JP Morgan. And we do now know that Richard Teng has now become the CEO of Binance. And the thing with Richard Teng, guys, is I know when a new CEO steps onto the platform, people get a bit skeptical of how the progression is going to go. Thing about Richard is Richard has a lot of experience. I'm just here on LinkedIn right now. We can see Richard's experience. If you bring up his profile, he's been at Binance for 2 years. He's also worked with a lot of fintech institutes. He's been the advisory board member in Singapore. And Singapore is very, very strict on regulation. They're one of the most strict countries on regulation, if I can be honest with you guys. And he's been working a lot at the head of regulation group that works closely with the Monetary Authority of Singapore. So you got to think regulation is something that essentially is coming, whether we like it or not. And being in the hands of Richard could help Binance to achieve much better regulation and therefore helping us to pave the way for that ETF. So not a bad thing at all. It's looking pretty positive. And he's a Singaporean industry veteran, poached by Binance in 2021 to bolster its global compliance work. Today, he's now been elected as the CEO of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange. So that's just a couple of things that I want to go through. But now let's get into the juice. Let's get into the alpha, because we've got quite a few things to cover. Starting off with the SEC met with Grayscale a few days ago, November the 20th, 8 days ago now, to discuss the spot Bitcoin ETF listing. Now, we know that the deadline for this ETF is going to be on the 15th of the 1st of next year. Now, it's positive to see that now the SEC are finally sitting down with Grayscale saying, okay, let's talk about how we're going to get this ETF listed. All right. Before there was a lot of speculation. Some people were saying 90% it's going to get approved, but we can see the pieces of the puzzle all starting to come together. And this is one thing that makes me really excited about the crypto market at the moment, showing that it is quite bullish. Satoshi Club also tweeted here on Twitter that the inflows into digital investment products totaled $346 million last week, the largest weekly inflows in 9 weeks. So Bitcoin saw inflows of $312 million, whilst Ethereum also saw inflows of $34 million. So we can see that coming up towards this ETF, people are getting excited. More money is coming into the crypto market as we speak. And Grayscale met with SEC and disclosed it's reached a transfer agency and service agreement with BNY Mellon for its spot Bitcoin ETF. So this ETF, it requires a lot of different moving parts, okay? And we can see that all these moving parts are starting to fall into place. Does this mean the ETF is going to be approved? Well, we don't know yet, okay? There's still Bloomberg analysts predicting a 90% chance. Looking at these things that are happening, though, it's starting to put the pieces together. I want to see, put in the chat, who thinks we're going to get an ETF approval? Who thinks that, what we're seeing with all these pieces coming together, it's going to help the market? I want to see what the community thinks, because right now, we don't know happening, right? Though. Oops, we don't know exactly. To put the pieces together. One sec, my live stream's played in the background for some reason. All right, so next thing I want to talk about is the liquidation heat map. Now, what we've seen over the last couple of days is we have seen a minor pullback on Bitcoin, minor pullback. Some of this was speculated because Cathie Wood from ARK Invest has been rumored to start selling her stocks. And you can see down here, there's actually an article right there. ARK offloads 5.2 million in Coinbase stock. Okay. But one thing that I want to draw to everybody's attention, and I covered this a bit last week, I'm going to just quickly touch on it again, because I know not everybody got to see last week. But here we have what we call the RSI indicator. It shows the buying and selling strength, or the relative strength indicator of an asset at a time. And here you can see that price is coming up and the indicator is going down. Now, usually what that indicates to us is a bearish divergence, telling us that sellers are starting to step in. Now, I'm just going to hide these other two indicators for a sec so we don't get everything mixed up. Actually, I'll keep the stochastic there. And what we're seeing is that in a lot of cases, not all cases, but in a lot, when price hits that overbought level, we do get a retracement back down until we get to a lower level of oversold, which is where here we start to see price start to reverse. One important part on the chart that I want to bring everyone's attention to is during bull runs. You can see that during bull runs, price only reverted to around the 50 level on the RSI and held as support while we saw this massive pump from, we started down here at 10,000 and went all the way up to $65,000. So what I'm looking personally to see right now from Bitcoin, from a technical standpoint, is I want to see this 50 level hold on the RSI. Now, as we're seeing the RSI resetting, we're not seeing a big dump. And we're not seeing a big dump at all. Price is slowly dribbling down, which is expected, but we're not seeing a big dump, which is yet taking us down to 31,000. Now, going back to the 4-hour time frame, what we can see is that usually when the stochastic is at a bottom, it shows the end of the momentum of a move. So here we had the end of this push. There was the volume for that move. We then came down, it reset. There was the next push. We then came down, it reset. Where we're sitting right now is on a trend line. Now, we could go either two ways. We could go back up to this $38,000 mark, or, for the next stop, we could start to see a pullback down to the $35,600 mark. Now, we're going to leave you with those ideas for a second. We're going to keep going over what we have here. This is what we call the liquidation heat map. Now, with this liquidation heat map, what it's essentially showing you is the data from the OKX exchange. You guys probably would have heard that exchanges that are out there, they can see where our liquidation prices are on our trades. And essentially what this chart is showing you is exactly that. You can see the color here as it reaches more yellow. Yellow is indicating up to $166 million. Now, if I'm a big player in the industry, what big players in the industry usually do, should say, is they tend to find these liquidation points. They tend to drop the price down to stop out and to cancel the trades of the retail investor to buy up their liquidations and then send price in the opposite direction. So while we're seeing price coming down, we do know that we have a very large liquidation level here, 36,704. There's currently $122 million of liquidations sitting there. So seeing a dump come down to that level could trigger those liquidations. And if we're looking at price over the last couple of days, we got close to that level, but we got down to 36,751. There's going to be a very strong buying demand here as those liquidations are potentially triggered, and we could start to see a reversal from that level. It only makes sense to stop these guys out and push it up if that is what they're planning to do. Vice versa, there's another liquidation point here. You can see previously liquidation points. What happened? Price went up, dumped, right? And that's a very common practice that we see from institutional players. They like to stop us out and then send price in the direction that they want it to go. And if you're a trader and you've been trading for a while, you probably would have seen this yourself. Probably a lot of times where you've seen trades get stopped out, gone to sleep, trades got stopped out overnight, waking up in the morning, and if that trade hadn't got stopped out, it would have been in the positive. Well, this is a graphical representation of where those levels are currently stacked. So really important levels to watch around the $36,700 mark. So this Bitcoin spot ETF anticipation so far has fueled the largest crypto fund inflow for 2 years. That's according to CoinShares. We see digital asset investment products recorded the largest inflows since late 2021 last week, adding $346 million led by Bitcoin and Ether-based funds. That's according to CoinShares. Anticipation of the US-based spot ETF fueled the surge, CoinShares analyst James Butterfield said. And just in the chat, Corey, can I share the link for the heat maps? Of course I can, mate. Here you go. It's in the chat there for you. Now, one of the main things that has driven this pullback over the last couple of days has been Cathie Wood from ARK Invest selling $3.8 million of GBTC. GBTC is the current fund for Bitcoin that BlackRock is offering. Okay. Now, the thing with this is that she's not selling actual Bitcoin. She's not holding heaps of Bitcoin and then essentially selling it. The way the GBTC chart works is the GBTC chart is essentially kind of like an ETF, let's call it, right? Where institutional investors can basically buy some Bitcoin. And the problem with the GBTC fund is that it runs at a discounted rate of Bitcoin. Now, at the start of the year, and I think there's some data here that we can have a look at. At the start of the year, the GBTC was at a discount of 48% to the normal price of Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin was trading at 20,000, you could get it on this GBTC for 48% cheaper. So as price started to go up, it got to a level where the premium is now only 13% difference. So it does make sense to take some profits. It does make sense to start selling up. It's not that she's bearish and she's going to dump the price. It's that, hey, we got in really early, we were lucky, and now we're taking some profit, which is, I believe, not as bad as what everyone is seeing this as. It makes sense to do so. So there's been a lot of fear about it. You can see the Bitcoin price. ARK offloaded a further. We'll go back up to the top here. We'll start from the top. ARK Invest sold 139,000 of GBT shares on Monday, worth 3.8 million. ARK also bought 113 million shares of the block across 3 of its funds. Cathie Wood's ARK Invest sold another tranche of Grayscale Bitcoin Trust on Monday, offloading another 3.8 million of funds. So we can see GBTC currently trades at $26.95 in pre-market, which is still up more than 30% over the past month. According to TradingView, GBTC's discount to net asset value, the NAV, meaning how much lower the market price of each share is than the value of the Bitcoin it represents, is trading below 15% for the first time since December 2021. So the GBTC premium is starting to catch up to the value of Bitcoin. Had you have gotten into the GBTC earlier at the start of the year, you could have turned over quite a decent profit, as it was already trading at half the price of Bitcoin. And now it's only, as we sit right now, according to this chart, this chart's about a month old though, at only negative 13.71%. Dogecoin, I'm going to put that to the end. We're going to get that down into that later. Now, let's talk about open interest. Open interest is something that's kind of overlooked but needs to be discussed. Open interest essentially tells you how many leverage positions are currently open. Now, we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, and we know that right now, institutional money is coming into the market because the CME, which is where the institutions trade, currently has the most amount of open interest, more than Binance, Bybit, OKX, and etc., showing you that institutional money is starting to get interested in the crypto market. Now, one thing that's really important that I want to note to everybody is obviously, these people are looking, these institutions are getting in amid the ETF hype, right? One thing that could potentially happen once the Bitcoin ETF gets approved is we may see an Ethereum ETF come straight after. Looking at this ETH ETF, you can see that CME is currently 5th on the list. We're looking at all the other coins. Can't really see CME on here yet, right? That's showing that there is also institutional interest into Ethereum. Now, Ethereum is one of the coins that I'm actively trading and keeping my eyes on very closely because some analysts are saying that there is a 50% chance that the ETF for ETH will be approved alongside the Bitcoin ETF. I personally don't think that'll happen. However, I think that first the Bitcoin ETF will have to come. Then we're going to see an ETF Ethereum ETF come a little bit later on down the track. The important thing is do you want to wait for the Bitcoin ETF to be approved first before you get the ETH one, or do you want to be in early? Me personally, I want to be in early. Now, while this is a risk, it may not happen, right? It may not happen. This is what I'm personally doing. I'm getting in a little bit earlier and following it. We can use this website here. It's called Valodata. Valodata.app/TradeFi. And what this actually shows us is the amount of volume and open interest that's coming through the CME exchange. And you can see that it hit a low around here of August. And look how much volume has been coming in up to November the 24th. This means institutions are watching ETH. They're opening positions on ETH. Wherefore, it wasn't spoken about too much. Coming to the start of the year, it was pretty quiet. There was 300 million. We hit a peak of 638 million. We're now at an all-time high of 763 million, showing that there is interest in ETH and more money is starting to enter open positions. We can also see the futures volume is also hitting all-time highs in October and November for Ethereum. And the open interest is just, for the options, is also just climbing. So we're seeing institutions take interest in Ethereum. We're going to get into some charts into that shortly. You guys know I don't do too many charts. I'm more so the fundamentals guy. Who jumped on Maddie's call yesterday and had a look at some charts? Yeah, a couple of bangers in there, right? A couple of really good charts. So let's talk about some altcoins. Now, first off, XRP price recovery is likely in the cards as market participants scoop up Ripple despite whale distribution. So we all know that there's been a massive lawsuit that's been taking place with Ripple over the last couple of months. Recently, it suffered a 6% weekly decline as the SEC lawsuit has just continued to drag on. And Ripple's largest wallet holders shed their XRP, while retail traders scooped up the asset in the last 3 months. One important thing about Ripple is that the SEC could settle the lawsuit in the closed-door meeting scheduled for November the 30th. That's in 2 days from now. 2 days from now. And while the chart doesn't look too bad as well, we're going to see what happens there. So put that one in your calendar. Check out Ripple today, tomorrow. Make sure you're watching Ripple. See if you can find some potential trading opportunities there. So that's something that could be coming for the next couple of days. And we can see XRP holders with 100,000 to 1 million and 1 billion consistently added XRP to their portfolio. So it's currently being bought up by the retail investors. However, what they're saying is that some people are still also selling them. Pro XRP attorney John Deaton, and we've got to remember the context of this is a pro XRP attorney, which means he's pretty bullish on XRP. If you know what his bias is, you got to take this statement as it has a bias. He's saying that in the event of a settlement, the odds are 90-10 in favor of Ripple. So Deaton argues that Ripple could be paying 20 million or less, a 99.9% legal victory for the firm. So exciting things could be coming for Ripple over the next couple of days. Make sure you're keeping your eye on it and see what happens from that. Now, Ripple on-chain data shows that XRP whales have purchased around 11 million XRP over the last week, worth roughly 6.82 million. So buying pressure is coming in at the moment. People are buying up Ripple, and that is as they're getting ready for that announcement, which could take place within the 2 days. Now, if we do see a positive result to this lawsuit, then we could see Ripple finally start to push off. We've seen that Ripple over the last couple of months, it's been one of the altcoins that are in the top that just haven't done explosive gains at all. So this could be the catalyst that starts to put in those exciting gains. Another thing is the altcoin rally cools as massive 650 million of tokens unlock over crypto market. Now, we all know that each crypto coin has a token supply. And as more and more tokens get unlocked, more comes into circulation. If the demand is not there and the supply is increased, we can see a potential downturn for that currency. And we can see here that there is 7 of the top biggest crypto unlocks in the next 7 days. Now, this doesn't mean that all of these coins are going to dump. Personally, I'd be worried about DYDX because a 15% increase in supply is massive. No doubt about it. Now, one thing to take notice of as well is, has this already been priced in? If we look at the DYDX chart just here, we can see that it has come down a little bit. We go from the top to the bottom here. It's come down about 35%. And another 15% of supply could still hurt it. It's 15% more. That's a lot. I see these small ones here at 0.36. They don't really bother me too much. The next one could be 1 inch at 6%. That's still quite a large amount. But you might want to screenshot this. Keep your eyes on these for the next couple of days as well. You know, there could be some opportunities there for short positions. But remember that, you know, trade at your own risk and never put more money than you can afford to lose. Always look for positions, do your technical analysis. If you're unsure on technical analysis, jump in Empire, click on education and do the technical analysis course and see if you can find some potential opportunities. For me personally, I'm not shorting much at the moment. During a bull market, I don't like to short. I like to buy the dips and accumulate. And that comes down to personal preference. But if the current sentiment is up and you're basically betting against it going up, even though there's bearish news, you'll probably find that when you have a dip, it's not going to be a dip that's prolonged for a very long time. You know, it's going to be a quick dip. You could start to buy on those dips, and however much you decide to buy, that's completely up to you. Remember, guys, never put all your eggs in one basket because it does get risky. So whilst we are in a bull market right now, we're in a bull market. There's no two ways about it. It's the very, very early stages of a bull market. One thing that you all need to understand is that during a bull market, there is still dumps. And because we've pumped up so hard so quickly, remember that a dump may feel like a bear market is coming. Because we might see big 20, 30% swings. That's common. And a chart here from Rect Capital is showing that we could start to see a bit of a retrace. In 2016, pre-halving retrace was 38% deep. In 2020, the pre-halving retrace was 20% dip. So we could be starting to see a potential retrace take place. We looked at Bitcoin earlier. We saw how the RSI was also quite extended. Whether it be coming now, whether it be coming a little bit later, you just have to account for that. It might not come this week, might not come tomorrow. It might be something that's coming up later, right? It might be this retrace could even really take place as we come towards ETF approval. We know that people like to buy the rumor, sell the news, right? So if they're selling the news of the ETF, could that cause a dump? Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not saying it will 100%, but there's also the opportunity for that to take place. So we could still see a bit of a run, but just make sure that you're aware. If you're in leverage positions, don't be leveraged to the max, and you're going to need to allow for that coin to drop. That's going to be how it is. We're going to see dumps. You have a look at the Bitcoin price, and during the bear market, look at here, it went from 44,000 down to 26. That's still a bull market, but you got to remember that at some point the market runs in cycles, and it's always going to take a big push up. It's going to be a little pullback, push up, pullback. Eventually, when you get a big run, what you're going to find is the pullback is going to be bigger, because that's how a cycle works. It goes up for a bit, people take profit, comes down, people buy again. So once again, with this, just keeping this in mind of what could happen in the short-term future. Personally, if I see a dump, I'm quite bullish on Bitcoin. I know the halving is coming up around the 15th of April. I'm going to be utilizing these dips to be buying. That's my personal opinion. And once again, it's up to you guys what you want to do. I'm never going to tell you guys, I'm not a financial advisor, never going to tell you guys to buy or sell. But I'm just here to show you what I'm doing and what the chart data shows. Okay, it's very important. Talking about dips, we saw in 2019, before the run, we saw a very big dip on Bitcoin. I'm just going to bring it up on the chart so you can see it. And when I say 2019, what's everyone think it's related to? Well, let me see in the chat. This is a pretty easy one, guys.
COVID.
That's it, COVID. So right here, this is the COVID dip. And we saw Bitcoin come down 64%. That's huge. One thing that's currently scaring me, and guys, please don't get scared when I say this. All right. I'm not here to induce panic amongst the community, but I also want to make sure that you guys know what's going on in the world. Recently, there has been a disease outbreak in China. This is a new disease. There hasn't been much talk about it. However, it's a respiratory disease, and there's a little video here that we can just quickly watch. I'll skip to the juicy part. I won't play the whole thing.
It is spreading across the country. Thousands of people are hospitalized. The World Health Organization is concerned. Beijing says there is nothing to worry about. If all of this sounds familiar, it's because we've been through something like this before. The last time there was news of a mystery illness from China, it turned out to be the Wuhan virus. Millions died and the world shut down. So, of course, there is some alarm this time. But what is this disease and how is it spreading so rapidly? In the last few weeks, China has witnessed a spike in respiratory illnesses, a mysterious pneumonia-like disease. It was first reported on the 13th of November. This was by China's National Health Commission. The disease has led to a spike in hospitalizations across the country. There is a long wait at many hospitals. And the worst hit this time are children. But some adults have also been impacted. On the 23rd of November...
So, we've heard this before. We've seen what happened to the world before when COVID hit. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be the next pandemic. Okay, I'm not saying that this is going to affect the market prices. This video was uploaded 15 hours ago. So this is very, very fresh information. I don't even know if it's been on mainstream media yet. And this technically could be nothing. Could be nothing. But as a fundamental analyst of the markets, I believe it's important for you guys to know. I believe it's important to follow what's happening there with this. Because if this is something that does break out to the world, we've seen what happened over COVID. It caused crazy amounts of printing, happened to lower the dollars quite a lot. The money printers went brrr, as people like to say. Keep your eyes on this news of what's happening. Research it. Have a look. Because the last thing we want is another lockdown. God forbid we don't. Bloody touch wood on that one. However, being up to date and being the first mover when something like this occurs can put you in a position to potentially make some money. If we see that the dollar, if we see that this has started to travel around the world, we've been this before. We know what the narrative is. We covered this over COVID. Just keep your eyes on it. Don't get scared. All right. Don't panic. But we just want to be watching this over the next couple of months of what it could do. Remember that we're talking about a pullback prior to the halving. Could this be what fuels it? Hopefully not. I don't want to see another outbreak at all. Now, next thing I want to talk about is this is a chart from one of our premium members in our community, Craig Tapping. One thing that the institutions like to do is what we call a Wyckoff distribution. Now, what a Wyckoff distribution essentially is, let me just find my annotate button. Here it is if I have $500 billion worth of assets, which unfortunately I don't just yet. All right, keyword just yet. Let's say I had $500 billion worth of assets. I can't just sell on the open market because what it'll do is it'll dump the price heavily. It'll eat up every single buy order that's on there. And I'll probably send Bitcoin down to $5,000. I don't want to do that. So by doing that, I'll have orders executed at 38,000, 32,000, 20,000, and essentially I'll be selling for less than what that market value is. So what the institutions like to do is called this Wyckoff distribution, where they put price in a sideways change, they manipulate it before, here the UTAD, that is where you get a lot of sell-off from institutions before the market starts to pull back. This is also a very likely scenario of what could be playing out on Bitcoin right now. You can see it matches up quite good with this chart. However, another thing that could be happening right now, once again, is what we spoke about with Cathie Wood, with the ARK Invest, how people thought that she was selling all of her Bitcoin, she was leaving the market, but really it's closing the premium that she got on the GBTC. So this is just something else to consider. The invalidation for me being long and where I'm starting to change my positions would be around this level here, around a 35,200 mark. We can see here on Bitcoin chart itself, 3,500 mark is quite an important level. Let me just zoom in. Oops. So here, $3,500 mark does indicate a pretty important support that's been touched multiple times. Now, if this distribution does play out, what I could see is price coming down to this level here, around 31,000. If you're in long positions, you're dollar costing in, and if you're dollar costing in on leverage positions, you need to make sure, you got to think, what's the worst scenario that could happen, right? What is the worst scenario that could take place? And if we see a pullback, you have to make sure that you've got enough liquidity to be able to fund those pullbacks. And if those pullbacks are happening, you need to also make sure that, if you want to buy, that you're going to have liquidity to be able to buy it down here. Personally, I'm going to be buying. I'm going to be waiting for it to come down and buying. I'm not looking, whilst there is an opportunity for a short there, it's risky. For me, it's risky because I don't like shorting bull markets. However, some people do, and that is completely up to you. So let's talk about Dogecoin real quick. So Dogecoin is currently on the rise, and miners stack $30 billion. Some people are calling 10 cents in sight. So one positive thing that's happening for Dogecoin is Radio Doge. We're going to get into that in a second. But critical miner activity. According to data from In The Block, Dogecoin miners' reserves, how much they're holding of Dogecoin, surged from 4.18 billion to an impressive 4.59 billion by November 26th. This dramatic turnaround resulted in miners acquiring an additional 400 million Doge during this period, and basically meaning that these miners are holding their Doge, getting ready for price to come up to offload. They're not going to offload them right now. They're going to wait. And one of the cool things that I like about this is, one, we've spoken about this before, about how Elon Musk wants to turn Twitter into a economic hub, or, it handles all your finances, does all this kind of stuff, basically like a WeChat that they have in China. That's what Elon Musk wants to do with Twitter. Whilst there's a lot of speculation that XRP and Doge will be the first coins that starts being allowed on the platform. That's something big, something that could send Doge ballistic over the next, couple of months or years, however long it takes. Before he does launch it, he needs to get all the approvals from the regulatory bodies. And from what we're seeing at the moment, he's working on it. He's getting them done slowly, one by one. He is getting them done. But another really cool thing that I like about this is Radio Doge. Conspiracy theorists around the world, and I don't like calling them conspiracy theorists because a lot of their stuff kind of comes true. One thing that they have predicted is that one day, if war breaks out, they could turn off the internet. Now, if the internet was shut down altogether, cryptocurrency would be in quite a bit of trouble, right? It would be in quite a bit of trouble because people wouldn't be able to connect to the internet. They wouldn't be able to transact. Dogecoin is building infrastructure to prevent that. They're building infrastructure based on radio technology to allow people to still keep the Dogecoin network alive, even if the internet goes down. It's run by these little transmitters, which I thought is pretty cool. Basically shows here how it all works. But they've also done some transactions. They've tested it and it's worked. They've got demos all on here, and you can have a look at the website at radio.dogecoin.org. And this is an important thing, where Dogecoin originally just started off as a meme coin, and people laughed at it, and I laughed at it, don't get me wrong. We're now seeing things like Twitter being integrated, right? Twitter potentially integrating Dogecoin. We're now seeing them do real-life things like what they've got here. We're allowing a network to run without the internet. So that's a pretty cool thing that's coming to Doge. It's not really heavily publicized at the moment. As this network gets launched out, could be quite positive for Doge, however. So Doge is another coin that I'm currently still trading at the moment. For the disclaimer, I bought a little bit of it and I'm just holding it. It is still a shit coin at the end of the day, though, so it's not one I'm too deep on. Looking at the Doge chart, what we're seeing here is a very nice base of support and a really nice level here where we've found this support. We could start to see something turn around. And look, I don't know if we're going to go to all-time highs, but there is a lot of room to grow for Dogecoin. Now, let's talk about some degen plays. Who likes a degen play? Yeah, I don't mind a little bit of degen plays. There's a coin called Crest. This is a coin that hasn't been around for too long. You can only get this on a handful of exchanges. I take that back. You can only get this on MEXC. Now, off the Crest token, there is a product called Peak Network that's being built at the moment. It's being used, and it's being used by some big players in the game. It's being used by Bosch. Anyone's heard of Bosch before, they know that it's a very large brand. Airbus, which make planes. Denso as well, another very, very large brand. Basically, they're building D-pins and D-apps for mobility, connectivity, energy, and more. You can see that they've already started to launch car sharing revenue which could be the first step in mainstream adoption of Web3 in the enterprise. They're doing a whole bunch of different things. Web3 parking and charging with Bosch. There's a whole bunch of what we call RWA, real-world applications, that are coming to Peak. Now, speaking about real-world applications, I know I showed you guys a lot of things about real-world applications over the last couple of months. A lot of those tokens have pumped crazily. Real-world assets right now are the talk of the town. They're a very big sector at the moment that is getting a lot of hype. We're going to go into it in a second. This Peak is another product that is a real-world asset. You can see it's already tokenized, 25 million plus real-world or machine real-world assets. It's coming into the space, and this product currently does not have a token. Now, there are currently 13 plus Crest tokens. Now, if you are holding Crest tokens, you will be able to participate in an airdrop simply for holding these Crest tokens. I think I might have opened up the wrong file, but where are we here? So you can keep it in the So if you can keep your Crest tokens in a Talisman wallet, which is the Web3 wallet for Crest, when Peak is live, it'll also be compatible, and you're going to be participating in a special airdrop for everybody who is using this kind of wallet. There's also a thing here. Where are we? 1 second. Reward for community tokens. No, that's not it. There's a whole bunch of different tasks. I'll send it in there for you. Essentially, to qualify, you need to hold at least 2,000 Crest in your Polkadot wallet or Talisman wallet. So if you go ahead and buy 2,000 Crest tokens and you hold them in your wallet, when Peak launches, you're going to be eligible for an airdrop. And the airdrop allocation is 1.2 million Crest tokens. Looking at Crest, currently doesn't tell us how much supply is around. I think it was on Coin Market Cap, actually. Sorry, let me just open this up. What they were saying is there's currently 400 million Crest tokens. So if you hold 2,000, now divided by 400 million, 0.05 times 1.2 million tokens. Wait 1 second, let me just open this up. Yep, 1.2 million tokens. If everybody is holding 2,000 tokens, you're going to get about 6 tokens of Peak each. Not a big amount, but who knows what the value of Peak is going to be? Who knows if Peak is going to be a small cap? Who knows if Peak is going to be a big cap? And the thing is, with these kind of coins, is when people know there's going to be an airdrop for coins, they like to buy it and hold it in anticipation of the airdrop. Okay? Now, this doesn't happen all the time. There is risk to it. The risk to this is getting closer to the airdrop, which is rumored to be late this year or early in 2024. So they haven't yet launched when the airdrop is. You can follow Peak on Twitter or X, and you'll find out when it's going to be. But coming up to, as this date gets closer for the airdrop, what you're most likely going to see is people buying up this Crest network to get the free token. Putting this into perspective, it's probably not worth holding too many of them if the risk is you're only going to get 6. However, I'm the type of guy that likes to ride the pump up, and getting close to the airdrop, I'll just sell my Crest for whatever gain I've gotten, keep that, and then be able to invest in Peak later once the hype kind of drives down. That's the way I personally play these things. Now, when it comes to this, you can see it's already gone on a bit of a run. Don't get me wrong, it has gone on a bit of a run. However, this is still only available on one exchange. The market cap of this is very low. It says the fully diluted is only 92 million. We don't know how much circulating supply is there, so it may be smaller than this. It may see a very small market cap on this, giving this Crest network room to grow. I've personally went and bought a couple of $100 of it. It's high risk. I didn't buy 2,000 of them just yet, but this is basically an altcoin that is high risk. It's a degen play, as I like to call them, and I'm just seeing how it runs. So if it's something you guys want to check out, take a look. There has been multiple airdrops that have played out in the past. If you guys remember the OMG token, Go, that did an airdrop, and we saw, I think, 300% gain before the airdrop date came. Probably about an hour before the airdrop happened, we started to see a sell-off. I'm not saying that's going to guarantee it's going to happen with this, but there are chances, given the fact that this is so small. There could be chances for a bit of a pump with this coin. Keep your eyes on it. I'll drop it in the chat for Zoom for you guys so you can check it out for yourself. Guys, there's been a lot of alpha in this call, hasn't there? There's been a lot going on in this call. Thumbs up if you're loving the call. Let me know in the chat. This is essentially what we do every Monday. Today might be a little bit of extra information because there's been a lot going on. Now, some pretty exciting news for Cosmos or Atom token. Cosmos is basically calling for a hard fork to create a decision to reduce Atom's inflation rate. So Atom has been one of the tokens that people are quite bullish on this bull run, and lowering their inflation rate is really good for the economy really good for the token, I should say. And that's just something that I wanted to show you all, because lowering that could be bullish if this passes. To know if this is going to pass, jump on Twitter, follow Atom, keep up to date with what they're saying in here. Who here has taken notes? Raise your hands if you've taken notes. Swampy, good man. Dungy, Timmy, good, good. More notes that you can take, the more information you're going to be able to take action on. Note takers are money makers, guys. I'm giving you guys all this information, so make sure you're taking notes. So let's have a quick look at this Larry Fink video. Larry Fink, he's the CEO of BlackRock, and we've spoken about real-world assets quite a lot. But let's see what Larry Fink has to say.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in an ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
This property looks terrible. Why is it listed for $980,000?
Yes, I know. I need to upgrade to YouTube Premium. All right, I'm working on it. Did you hear what he said here?
Formed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities.
Tokenization of securities. The bond market. The real world assets. Now, earlier this year, I told every single person about a coin that I was watching. I told everybody to watch Maple. Maple is another real world asset coin. And give me 1 second. Let me just bring it up. Where is it? Maple. Why isn't it here? Here it is, Maple. I told you about this at $4.30. Real world asset coins right now are the thing. They're pumping. This is done since I told you about it at $4.30. This is currently up 360%. Who bought some? Let me see, show of hands. A couple of people in there. Some did, some didn't. That's been a massive pump. I also told you guys about Centrifuge. Another real-world asset token. This one here is currently up 215%. These have been the leaders in the market right now. Maple, what does Maple do? I'm going to show you guys in a second. Rio. Rio has been another real-world asset. This was the one that I showed you guys that's tied to real estate, where houses are being bought, tokenized, and you can buy shares of houses and share the rent yield on the blockchain. It's currently up 630%. Real-world assets are a thing. And if you're currently not watching these three coins, add them to your lists. Maple, CFG, and Rio. The results are speaking for themselves. These have outperformed Bitcoin. Bitcoin, yeah, all right, fair enough. It may have done, a double and a bit, maybe 150%. But when you're seeing these coins do 630%, when you're seeing Maple up a couple of 100%, CFG, what this is telling you is that there's a narrative. There's a narrative right now that real-world asset tokens are what is the hype at the moment. They're what people are buying, and then they're what's going up, or what has gone up in the very short-term future over the last couple of months. These started pumping in October. You know, we're coming up to December now. Look how much gains they've already made. Am I saying to buy these right now? Absolutely not. They've pumped. You got to find a retracement before you buy it. Apply your fibs, have a look at the charts, and see if you can get yourself some good entries. If not, if you don't, always, guys, because they already have pumped, always trade with caution. Don't go too heavy. You don't want to buy something that's currently up 500%. You want to buy the bottoms, but I showed you guys these. Okay. Today, I'm going to show you another one. I'm going to show you another opportunity. This is called Goldfish. Before we get onto Goldfish, I want to show what Maple does real quick. I'm very bullish on Maple. I'm very, very bullish on Maple. So you just heard Larry Fink say that they're going to tokenize bonds and a whole bunch of other things, right? And Larry Fink, he's one of the largest asset managers in the world. He handles $9 trillion of assets. He knows his shit, right? Maple is putting bonds, US Treasury bills, on the blockchain. You can buy bonds, US Treasury bills, right here using Maple on the blockchain. Then we're looking at how much the coin's pumped. Well, this is why. And I'm shattered that not everyone got in on this one when I was talking about it, because I did tell everyone about it, but that's all right. Let's go back to Goldfish. This is the next thing. Goldfish, what I like about it, current market cap, still sub 100 million, still very fresh. It is ranked 391, still a relatively new coin. If you're having a look at it here, started off at a high like a lot of coins do in April. It hasn't yet seen a bull run. Sorry, guys, my phone's going nuts. Let me just put it on silent. I don't know why I didn't put it on silent earlier. But now, we're seeing Goldfish go on, or start to begin, a bit of an uptrend. Now, what makes this different from other products? So first off, let's take a look at their website. Real yields from real companies, really. Stop worrying about crypto money games. Start lending USDC to real businesses worldwide. This allows you to lend US dollars and for real businesses to come and borrow that money from here. You see that right now they're currently offering a variable USDC interest of 7.4%. That's a decent percentage. And there's over $100 million of active loans. Now, what I like about this is Coinbase selected by BlackRock to provide Aladdin clients access to crypto trading via Coinbase. You can see that Coinbase and BlackRock are starting to work together. Over the last few years, Coinbase has played a central role in strengthening crypto markets as the safest, most trusted bridge to the crypto economy. Today's market announces a step on our journey as we announce that Coinbase is partnering with BlackRock. Let me just read that to you again. Coinbase is partnering with BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, to provide institutional clients of Aladdin, BlackRock's end-to-end investment management platform with direct access to crypto. So we're seeing a partnership starting to be built here. When you're looking at Coinbase, right now, BlackRock owns 4.28% of Coinbase. Okay. Guess who is developing Goldfish? Previous people who worked with Coinbase. All those excitement pulsing through the so-called Web3 space, most of the investment dollars find their way touching the United States, but increasing number of startups looking to tap into developing nations where existing centralized financial systems have struggled to meet the needs of their users. Goldfish is a crypto startup building a decentralized lending protocol that allows organizations to receive crypto loans without owing massive amounts of crypto already. Today, most lending platforms rely on users' existing crypto collateralization to safe bet a loan. Industry leaders announce groundbreaking tokenization asset coalition. And this is from Business Wire. This is a Berkshire Hathaway corporation. So Warren Buffett, he's part of it. And he's basically saying that the tokenized asset coalition, what we're talking about, real world assets, launched today with industry leaders, including Aave, Centrifuge. So I already showed you Centrifuge, Circle, Coinbase, Base, Credix, and what's this one right here? Goldfish, as founding members. Today, these companies aim to bring the next $1 trillion of assets on-chain through real-world asset tokenization. Now, that is big things for Goldfish. There's articles that mention BlackRock on Goldfish's Medium, which you can go and have a look at. And we know that there's also people who were pretty high up in Coinbase that are actively building this Goldfish. Now, do I think this is going to go up tomorrow? I don't know. I'm showing you guys the positive fundamentals to it. I am also very aware that with Bitcoin coming down right now, that altcoins can follow. And you can see that right now it's pumped from 37 cents. It's already at $1.60. It's already been on a run. However, the market cap is still very, very, very small. You compare that to some of the coins that you're seeing here. If you could scroll down, excuse me, and we're looking at, the top 85 coins, there's 500, excuse me, sorry guys, there's $572 million of market cap in those coins, where you're looking at this one here, and there's currently only 73. Given the fact that they're working with Coinbase, and Coinbase is working with BlackRock and all these kind of things, there is some potential for this coin to see positive gains. Now, once again, guys, up to you guys. Do some technical analysis. Have a look at where you may find some entries into this if it's something that you want to enter in. I know that coming into the bull run, there is going to be altcoins coming out left, right, and center. We're going to be talking about so many different altcoins. One thing I want to say to you guys is set a price where, I'm not very clear. I'm not telling you guys to buy this, all right? If you do want to buy any of these altcoins, set a price that you're willing to pay. And if that price is not met, just skip it and go to the next one. Don't go buying tops. Don't go FOMOing into tops. It's not worth it. Try to find lows. Now, same thing with this. It's still listed on smaller exchanges, BingX, Gate, and MEXC, but it's not yet listed on Binance, not yet listed on OKX, none of those big exchanges. So once again, there's still potential for that as well. The max supply is here, and we're still about a bit more than 50% over the maximum supply. So even if the full supply was diluted right now, all the tokens came into circulation, still only give it about $140 million market cap, which is still a lot less than those other coins sitting at 580. Long term, when the RWA things start to take off, if this coin was to get some hype, could see a 5 to 10x on it. But once again, you don't want to be buying the tops. I'm just going to see if I can bring it up on the chart here on my other screen. So Goldfinch, we can do a live chart on it. Yeah, we can on Gate. So this has already popped quite hard. Now, when you see a coin pop really, really hard like this, what you're going to see is that in most cases, you're going to get between a 60 to 80% retracement. It's not always the case, but it's common. It's common. So looking at areas of support, and looking from this chart here, we could see a level here. Let's have a look on the weekly first, actually, see if we can get some better levels. Around 74 cents to 55 cents. That's where I'm personally looking. And if we do a fib retracement from top to the bottom, you can see the 61.8 actually lines up around here. So within this zone is where I'm going to be looking for potential entries around here for some Goldfinch. And I'm not going to go all in at the top. I'm going to probably put a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. I'll be honest with you guys, I don't invest large in these low cap altcoins because a lot of them are risky and a lot of them can just pretty much go to zero. I like to just put a couple $100. Something that I'm happy to lose, but I'm also still happy if it does a 500x. You know what I mean? I don't want to go too deep. Even with Maple, I think I put like $500 on this. It's turned over a damn good return so far. Thinking it could potentially go up to $24. If you don't already own this, I do not recommend buying it now. Not right now anyway. We're waiting for a pullback because the risk 15% before you see a pullback. It's all the way down to it's $9. It's just not really viable. And yeah, guys, to wrap it up, let's quickly show you guys some Bitcoin and I'll leave you on your way. But who's enjoyed tonight's call? Mate, plenty of alpha. We're going to look at Bitcoin and we're going to look at XRP. So we've seen Bitcoin rejecting here. And what I essentially want to see here on Bitcoin is either a bounce off this trend line. So open up my other chart. 1 second. A bounce off this trend zone, I should say. And the reason why I draw zones is because you can see that if I just drew a standard trend line like this, when price broke here, I would have thought, and I don't know how many people have been taught like this, but a lot of people think that because that trend line's broken, it's a good opportunity to short. If you're one of those people, let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. Thing is, if you draw a zone, and the way I got this zone was, you can see I'm using the tops of the wicks here. So touch here, touch here, touch here. I'm incorporating this wick here. The reason why I'm incorporating that wick is because that's showing that there's a lot of buying pressure there. You can see that once again here, it dipped into that zone that was drawn from this level previously and then continued back up. So what I'm looking for here is either a bounce, let me just straighten that back up, a bounce within this zone to take us back up to 38, or a bit more of a drop we could potentially start to see 56,700. That will allow for those the liquidation heat map that I showed you guys earlier to swap, to knock out some of those people who are in over leveraged longs for starting to potentially either bounce from this level and go back up to here. So we have to wait. Crypto trading is about a waiting game, and we have to evaluate each level as they come. You get all these people on Twitter saying, oh, we're going down to 10 grand. You don't know that, because you have to identify each level and trade each level as they play out. If right now this is the data that's being shown to us, watch this data first. Don't make anticipations that you're going to go see 5 grand again, because we might hold this support. We might even hold this support that we're at right now. Looking at the 4 hour, the stochastic is all the way down the bottom. It's showing us that this move may be over. Maybe. So waiting to see what happens here. A bullish confirmation of this trend zone should take us back up to this level here and hopefully give us a breakout to 42,000. And if you're thinking that, you put it into perspective, the ETF is coming soon. We're about, I think it's 45 days, a bit more. About 45 days away from the potential ETF, 43 days. Now, given that information, a pullback could happen, maybe a small one, which is what we could set up to 35,000. But coming up to that ETF, we could see a lot more money starting to come in, which could give us that breakout. So it all starts to make sense if you follow the narrative of what is happening in the market with the news. Last thing I want to look at is XRP. So before I open up XRP, watching these levels, waiting for some bullish confirmations within this trend zone. Otherwise, first stop we're looking at is 35,600, or we're heading back up to here. So trade accordingly. Make sure that you're doing your own technical analysis. You're watching the market, the 4 hour, 1 hour. That's what I personally like to do. And if you're looking on the daily, what you're going to notice is that we spoke earlier about that 50 level of support on the RSI. Well, we're currently at 55, and I think a drop down to 35,000 will take us to that level of 50, if not even in the middle here somewhere. So 50 level, if it holds as support, could be quite bullish. And remember that technically we're not in a downtrend until we create a lower low. So we haven't created that lower low yet and a lower high. Once we create those, then we're in a downtrend. Then we can start to see this level. Till then, we get a bounce here and keep going like this. And technically, we're in a sideways channel. All right. So last thing I'm going to show you guys is just quickly before we look at XRP. If you guys got on space, I called this at $20 last week's call. I said it was going to hit $36. We didn't hit $36. We only hit around here at about $35. So we're $1 off our target, 88.5% gain. Congratulations if you jumped in. That was a banger trade. I personally got into this at about $18.90, I think it was. I did share it with you guys. It did dump a little bit after I shared it with you guys. It went from like $20 down to 18. Told you guys I was waiting for a dip in this sideways channel that we're having at the time when I shared it. Bought the dip and I collected the gains. Anyone else get these gains? Show me, give it a show of hands. No, I managed to jump into it. Damn. All right, now let's have a quick look at XRP. So XRP, here is our daily support. You can see that we broke out of this sideways accumulation zone. We're heading up here. Now, looks like to me that here we're starting to put in a potential bull flag. Now, where I'm looking for buys is at this level of support, about $58.70, around here. I like this level because it's been touched off here multiple times, but I'm also allocating for a bit of slippage to come down like this. So this will be my zone of where I'm looking at entering some XRP over the next couple of days in anticipation. My stop loss is just slightly below. Make sure my stop loss allocates enough room. Because remember, we spoke about the liquidation heat maps. You got to think that if a lot of people entered longs here, there's going to be a little bit of stop losses sitting there where they may swing it down to hit those stop losses before we start to travel upwards. So I'm looking at Ripple to see what happens over the next couple of days with the lawsuit. It is quite speculative. There's been so many times they've told me this lawsuit's going to get done and dusted, and it just hasn't. So I'm not really trading this with a large position, to be honest with you guys. A couple $100 on it because I don't really like the chances, but at the same time, there could be a bit of opportunity there. And if Bitcoin starts to go down, then we're probably going to see Ripple follow suit, which means it's not a large position that I want to be stuck in because the chances of being stopped out could be quite high. Guys, what a session. What a session. And this is what we basically cover in Empire. every week. This is what we do. We look at fundamentals. We look at the things that are happening around the world. This is my call on a Monday. Today it's Tuesday because we swapped with Maddie. And then usually on a Tuesday night, Maddie will go in and look at charts, find buying and selling opportunities. So if you're not already a member in Empire, you're missing out on heaps of juicy stuff. Send me a message. You should be jumping in. You need this. Like, these are the kind of information that you need for the bull run. As the bull run takes off, without these kind of insights into what's happening, how do you expect to make money? You learn technical analysis all you like. If you don't know if the fundamentals are the thing that push the technical analysis, right? You find that price will get to a certain level. All of a sudden, there'll be something big on the news. Oops, wrong screen. All of a sudden, there'll be something big on the news, and that's going to push the price up. And they're the kind of things that you need to be aware of. So that's why every Monday I like to basically show what's going on with the markets, US dollar. So guys, if you enjoyed the call, please let me know. Swampy in the chat. Currently 42 trades without loss, mate. Bloody well done, mate. I'm glad to have you back. I seen you popped out for a bit, busy building your development homes that you're doing there. Good on you, mate.
Somebody good must have taught me, eh?
Mate, I'm glad to see your results, man. We worked together for quite some time, and seeing these results, 42 trades back to back, is cracker.
Cheers,
While I got you here, let's talk about gold. 2 seconds. If you're looking at gold right now, remember what I spoke about earlier about how the US dollar is currently losing, or they're currently getting a bit devalued because a lot of people are selling it off. And look at this, the DXY correlation to gold, and you see it as pretty positive for gold. You can see that, you know, as DXY is coming down, gold is starting to keep going up. So if it keeps continuing, see here, we had a level of resistance. We started to get a bounce. And if the US dollar keeps continuing to be sold off, you may start to see a bigger rise on gold as well, man. So just keep your eyes on that. All right. Thanks, everybody, for jumping in. Hope you all enjoyed this call. If you've got any questions, feel free to reach out. And I'll see you guys next Monday for the same thing with different news. Thanks, guys. See you next time.